Hey everybody, welcome to
Hi.
TFT,
Tarot for today.
Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
and me, Banshee.
And we're so happy.
Well, sorta.
Should we be? It's time once again for our annual
2024 World Predictions. And we're switching it up again this year. We're doing it differently from the last couple of years. We're going to focus on different regions that may be of interest or have importance. We're sorry if we've omitted people or short-shrifted some stuff, but we feel like some of these areas might be major areas of concern in the year of head places. And what we're going to do is a 3-card reading for each of these places. And by the way, the U.S. will be first. They're just getting a brief one, but we are doing a more broken down U.S. prediction as well. That will be a separate video. But we're going to throw 3 cards. The overall theme or focus for the year, number 1. Number 2, for that area, the opportunities or positive moves in the year ahead. Or number 3, the challenges or negative moves in the year ahead. For example, what might not be so helpful or what might be going wrong, for this particular area of the world in the year ahead.
So, now, in some cases, they are actual areas, and then in some cases, they are specific countries.
Continents.
All
right, so on with the show. We're going to start with the U.S., and we're going to start with them.
And we are using the Tarot of the Cat people because everywhere in the world people like cats.
We hope.
We hope.
Truly hope. And after
Card 1, overall theme or focus this year for the U.S. All right, so
Card 1.
Overall theme.
Focus for this year.
The Queen of Swords.
For the United States. The Queen of Swords. What do you say?
Well, it looks to me like this is a year of maybe people having to make important choices and not necessarily feeling like they're going to care much about, others' opinions. They're going to make a choice that needs to be made.
Clear. Oh, go ahead.
Well, and so this is, kind of like symbolic of America at large, too, that, it could even symbolize the fact that there is a lot of polarization and that whether people feel right or wrong, they feel very strongly about the decisions they are going to choose to make.
I think basically to cut to the chase on this one, this is about legal matters, clearly. This is going to be a year where, say, for example, Supreme Court decisions are going to play a major role. Perhaps decisions in cases concerning Donald Trump will play a major role. And also, let's not forget the most important decision of all, election 2024.
Exactly.
This is a year of pivotal decisions where we really do need to use this and not allow our emotions or other things rule the day. We really need to think about, and including those people who are making these important legal decisions, need to put aside politics, put aside any emotional baggage, and go for the, what's right.
It kind of represents the ultimate in the sense of an informed opinion or decision to be made.
Right, and as Mr. O said, it may not be, they have to not care about what other people think. They have to do what they think is right. All right.
So, card 2, opportunities or positive moves in the year ahead for the U.S. 2024.
Well, if I had to, it's the 3 of Pentacles reversed. And if I had to say anything as an opportunity here, maybe we have an opportunity to find better ways to actually work together to mend some of the rifts between us. I mean, whether we do it or not is another matter, but there are opportunities here for that.
To me, I guess I want to see that as the opportunity, but I more or less feel like this looks to the idea that there's a sort of we can do this ourselves spirit here.
Okay.
It's not necessarily that it's precluding anybody else's help, but it's just basically so American, so USA. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to do what needs to be done. So I sort of feel like this is entrepreneurship in some respects, but it's also the idea of it's us against the rest of the world.
I like that. And I mean, I don't like that, but I like that because, I was thinking to myself, yes, maybe we're going to want to do something, respond to something, retaliate to something, for example, and not everybody's going to want to be on board with that. We will be going it alone in some area, whether it's that or something else. There may be some real lone wolf decisions being made out there.
So finally, the challenges or negative moves in this year ahead for the U.S.
I'm worried about this one. I got an immediate impression when I saw this card.
Did you? It's the Four of Cups upright.
Voter apathy.
Ooh.
Voter apathy, or just apathy to not create change or to look for opportunities for growth, and take them. We just feel like our cup is, look at that. That cup looks a little bit different from Four of Cups cards in that are allowing one to spill right over here,
Well, I think you've hit onto something there, because I think this is really, the challenges or negative moves. And so what we're seeing here is the idea of somebody who doesn't want to make a choice. And of course, like the song says, they're still making a choice by not making a choice. And that choice is not necessarily informed or going to be helpful.
So more later on the U.S., when we do our U.S. predictions, I do wonder what will come up in some of the categories we have for that.
So why don't you start?
I'm going to start shuffling for our next area, which is Canada, our northern neighbors. We didn't want to leave you out, Canada, because you're so close to my state.
Yes, living in the Metro Detroit area, Canada is just across the river from us, and in its unique, ironic way, Windsor, that city, is actually south of Detroit.
It's been our home away from home. We love Canada.
We love Canada.
Been there a number of times. Not enough. We haven't explored it enough. But,
well, to be fair, ever since 911, it's been a lot harder for us to negotiate some of that process of getting over there. We have gone about 2 times since 911. All right. Oh, Canada.
And we're so intricately tied with the auto manufacturing and different things. So let's see what's going on there.
So first card, overall theme or focus for Canada this year.
How ironic. You too are dealing with legal and justice issues. Perhaps social justice, perhaps legal, perhaps fairness, fair play. I don't know if this means perhaps that the focus might involve unions and strikes and various things like that, or finding some balance and stability maybe in your political, environment. Because you too, Canada, has been having some, discord going on in your politics.
There's a lot of issues that could be facing Canada, and maybe at the forefront is how they can truly become fair and equal for all. And this especially reminds me of, and it's been maybe a little bit under the radar in recent years, but it had come up in the last few years, the discoveries of mistreatment of Indigenous peoples in Canadian school systems and things like that. So I think this is saying like maybe Canada's going to face the music a little bit in what some of these, cases of justice have been asking or looking for.
Opportunities or positive moves in the year ahead. Well, it's the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is reversed, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the opportunity here is to really hone in on specific issues, whether they are about social justice, or with the indigenous tribes, or whatever the case may be, finding fairness with labor unions, fair labor practices, etc. This is about looking at the points that need to be focused on to create a stronger union, a stronger result here, a firm foundation which to build forward on.
Whatever the cause is, whether it is really, things working through their legal justice system.
Or other things.
This is really about, Canada being able to address some of the issues they need to make themselves a better home and country for everyone, that lives there. And of course, that means that the work is ongoing and that, there always will be a little more to do in that search.
And finally, the challenges or negative moves in the year ahead.
And it's the reversed Knight of Cups.
Well, there may be just a pessimistic attitude that has to be, reined in. People who feel, maybe those that don't trust government, don't like government, or don't like the way certain things are going. Everybody sometimes thinks of their own pain and what their own wants and needs are as opposed to collective. So there might be a little bit of selfishness here, and there might be some people who are trying to push their own agendas ahead of what's really good for all.
It's not just astrologers, but other people who do demographic type studies say that every so many decades, and sometimes it's actually quite a few decades, there's really big changes in the way a populace, a citizenry can feel about themselves, their country, and their relationships with the rest of the world. And this could be signifying that maybe that time has come for Canada, that maybe they're looking at it a little bit with the blinders off and saying, there's a lot of things here that we have to love. And, it's not that easy. And I think it's just saying maybe it's time, that even though the impact may not be positive, Canadians are taking an honest look at themselves. It's a tough love prospect.
Well, that's what we have for Canada. Let's move on.
All right, so our next country, we're going to go over to the other hemisphere.
These are in no real order, right. Trust me.
Yes, and it's Russia.
Yes, it's Russia. All right, let's see what's going on in the Soviet Union, Russia.
Russia.
One thing I did not include on here is Ukraine, but it may come up as we look at, what's going on with Russia. I do feel a little bit bad about that, but, we've cut out a few things that I know some people will be disappointed about. All right, here you go. And you can cut them. You were probably supposed to shuffle first, but that's okay. Wait a minute. No, never mind. Never mind. All right, the overall theme, or that doesn't matter, or focus for Russia. The Knight of Wands reversed. Well, the overall theme or focus is things are stalling. Things are getting stuck. Things are not moving forward. There are delays. There are frustrations. Could this be with the war effort? It could be. Although, with the way things are going with funding for Ukraine and stuff drying up here with the U.S., I don't know. But it does seem like there is stall. It could be in their economy. It could be in the war. Oh, definitely, I know the economy is a problem. And also, this just could be, well, go ahead. Let me regain my
This
thought.
is a market sign, I think, too, that this says there is a decrease in confidence, a decrease in bravery. Some of those things can be applied to different situations.
Yeah, I like
the bravery may be in how the war is being waged, both individually as well as a national proposition. But the idea of confidence could also be widely held with the citizenry as well as people in various other areas, even, sub-levels of government. There may be a real sense of a lack of confidence in the direction
Well, it's interesting you mentioned
and of course,
that.
This probably is, the elephant in the room is probably Ukraine.
Well, there's more, but I'm going to hold off till I see the other two cards.
Right.
I have something else to bring up.
Okay.
All right. So card 2 is the opportunities or positive moves in your head. Wow, look at that. It's the Page of Wands. Maybe some good news will buoy people and inspire people. Maybe There will be some turnaround either economically or in the war eventually. I can't help but wonder if this isn't tied into, Ukraine and some of the support wavering for Ukraine, which might at least encourage them. Although, really, it does seem like things are stalled. There is some good news coming to Russia or Russians. Could it be that maybe they will try to work for a peaceful solution, a new beginning? I don't know.
Right. We don't want to say that this entirely represents the idea about the government, but it's hard not to feel that way because the common person like us doesn't necessarily know anything more about the people. But this could be about the people saying that news comes that really strengthens the idea of a spring, a new spring, a Russian spring. And of course, I could be saying that in the same sense of what was talked about as the Arab Spring a number of years ago, too, where people sort of reawaken to the idea of taking control over their own lives, or of at least indicating to their leaders what they really expect.
And finally, the challenges or negative moves in the year ahead. It's ironic to me that we have all court cards here, which may indicate to me that individual players may be playing a role in what's going on, or the people. And we have the Knight of Swords reversed here. So the challenges or negative moves in the year ahead are just that. Negative moves. I'm going to move this here for a moment just to keep them away from there. Negative moves in the year ahead, because the Knight of Swords, or negative decisions, bad choices, bad moves, which could be stagnating things here and keeping things stuck. They need a new beginning to really, and new thoughts and new ideas to spur growth and positive things in the Soviet Union.
Whether it's the governmental issues, including their war efforts right now, something really is being forced overall. Something is moving too fast. They may be trying to bite off more than they can chew, as a saying goes. And so this may be saying really that they should probably dial down some of their objectives here, because this is clearly talking about an objective that may be hard to reach for any number of reasons.
And the other thing, the elephant in the room here this year, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's an election in Russia with Putin running again. And I've heard various things about this, that, it's obvious that he will win. I mean, it'll be a wrong choice. Possibly, this is maybe where this is tied in. And also, this Knight of Wands reversed could be somebody pushing and bullying their way forward. Because as we know, I don't really know how free and fair, I'll just say it that way, elections are in the Soviet Union.
Well, the idea of the reading framed with the two knights sort of, and their reverse sort of does give the idea of animosities and, maybe, oppressive, stressful situations happening.
So stay tuned for that. And we are on China.
All right. So it's your shuffle first?
Is it? I can't even remember anymore.
I don't either. But we're on China.
We're on China. And let's see what's going on there. All this talk with Taiwan. And, we didn't put anything in for Taiwan or North and South Korea, which are other hotbed points in the world. And we apologize for that. We will cover Asia.
We are doing Asia as a general, catch-all.
So let's see what's going on with the
identify things.
Superpower of China. All right. Good boy, staying there. Don't go there. I'm going to put this back up again.
All right, China. First card, overall theme or focus for China this year?
Well, it's the Hierophant upright. China's a very kind of regimented country. You know, they have their rules, their regulations, their guides, and you know, their people are very disciplined. And I feel that this is going to continue here. I don't know. You know, one could look at this as a spiritual card, a card of spiritual awakening, but I almost feel this is maybe more of a card of a dogmatic leader who's really controlling the flow of things.
Oftentimes, this card only really speaks about that, the sense of an enforced or accepted conformity, or a sense of only going with what tradition, whether it's cultural, historical, etc., implies is the way to go. So as the overall focus, this just suggests that China remains as it is. And
I was going to say business as usual in China.
And I keep thinking of our one longtime friend who is an amateur historian. He always says China plays the long game.
Oh.
So things mostly stay the same until they don't.
Okay, well, this is interesting as the opportunity or positive movement goes. Oh. It's the Magician reversed.
How interesting indeed that is.
Well, as an opportunity, you know, there may be an opportunity to really focus more attention on areas that are important to them. You know, whatever the case may be. I'm not getting a clear picture on that yet, but I feel here that, you know, there's a goal. There's something in mind here that they want to work on. I think another thing that's going to be important in China this year, for better or worse, depending on who is targeted by this, but I almost sense that this is an opportunity for them to clean house a little bit. They might be trying to ward off corruption or people who may be not following exactly the formal guidelines here.
Well,
what do you think?
I have to think about this for a moment because, of course, the Magician Reverse does talk about people who use their abilities not necessarily in their best interest or others' best interest. But when you combine it with the idea that it's supposed to be a positive move, then maybe this is saying that sometimes, you know, they do have to get a little bit serious about certain situations that they may be trying to affect. So whether this is about cleaning house, so to speak, or just sort of finding the idea that, you know, other ambitions that may be going along on that national sense need to be pruned or trimmed or edited.
Well, and the only other thing I can think of here is that they may be focusing their attention on things that maybe others in the world won't appreciate, like Taiwan, or maybe working with Russia or North Korea, you know, something along those lines maybe. So in other words, it's not so much unethical, but it may be things that a lot of people disagree with.
Card 3.
So
Card 3.
Card 3, after the sunny disruption, stay down. Please keep him down. The Two of Cups. The Two of Cups is reversed. Definitely. Oh my gosh. So this is about negative moves. They sever ties with something really important here. There could be a conflict. There could be a conflict that China gets involved in. Whether it's an internal conflict, you know, as they're weeding out corruption or other things, or whether they're making a move towards Taiwan or something else, or they're allying with other forces and breaking away from something else. I don't like the looks of this.
Well, it could be saying that, you know, some of the alliances that they have had are being broken, and maybe those are things that maybe will have important effects for more than just the Chinese country. But it could also be saying, I think, too, that maybe some of the alliances that they are involved in are not necessarily harmonious or with trustworthy partners, and so their reliance on those is a negative move or challenge on their part too, that they may not realize who it is who could stab them in the back.
Oh, this cat. I didn't know he'd be such a problem today. I just think we got to watch China in this year ahead and the moves that they make.
All right.
All right, let's move on. What's next, Mr. O?
Asia.
All right, Asia in general. Let's see if we can pick up anything else here of note. I don't know if I was supposed to shuffle first, but I am. It's okay.
I'll make sure I shuffle next time.
All right, go ahead. Sonny, get back here. You stay here.
Sometimes it's nice and sometimes it's not.
Sometimes he's welcome and sometimes he's not.
It's more of a program on shows like this, our recorded shows, because we're usually trying to have a really controlled environment and to really move through the process. On the live shows, it's kind of a given that there's a lot of randomness that may happen, to say the least.
This is a distraction we do not need right now. I know he's trying to comfort us when we're dealing with world issues, but
Yes,
it's
no
not
doubt that's
working.
true.
All right, let's see what we have here. Okay, Asia. 7 of Wands. Oh.
Well, that's interesting.
It is the major theme or focus, standing up for oneself. It seems like the Asian countries, are going to stand their ground on certain things. For example, one thing that comes to mind is there's some island disputes in, that neck of the woods. Japan and China have a land dispute. China, of course, Taiwan have their own dispute. North and South Korea have a boundary. Boundaries. People are going to be setting firm boundaries with each other or trying to. And they may have to stand up, for their rights.
Well, for some time now, there's been a lot of talk, even before the COVID era, etc., that basically Asian countries and maybe some other adjacent areas are creating their own financial networks and their own networks. And so maybe this will show that they were also moving that into more of a competitive stance in terms of how economics, etc., deals with the rest of the world.
I won't rule out the financial thing in trade agreements, but
it is once.
Yeah, but it's also aggressive energy, so got to look at it that way.
All right, so card 2 are the opportunities or positive moves in the year ahead for Asian countries. And it's the Queen of Wands. And so there's a sense of provocativeness here, too, that maybe some Asian countries will feel this is a moment for them to embrace confidence and maybe a little bit of a sense of their own style or their own energy towards being dynamic, being the one who is looked at, the one who is sought after. So it's about attention seeking. Maybe Asian countries really want to kind of pull ahead and say, hey, world, look at us. We're very important too, in a way.
There is a sense of showmanship in this card, but in a positive sense that, they want to be noticed. They want to be recognized more. They want to be seen in a positive light. And this is a year where they could accomplish that depending on how they manage, conflict and also competition, So let's see what else comes up here. What is the possible pitfalls or challenges in the year ahead?
And it's the High Priestess.
Well, I think it's how they, whether they tap into their higher purposes or not. I feel here that since this is a negative, it could be that, they shouldn't be too quick to respond to things. They should really think things out more. Not necessarily going with a gut reaction, but going with something that is well thought out.
Maybe Asian countries need to remember that sometimes their sense of ancient wisdom or their sense of ancientness that gives them a place in the world comes from a sense of instinctual thinking about themselves, and maybe that can be a negative move in these days, that maybe they don't need or shouldn't always rely on just their sense of instinct of being, the oldest, the most anxious, the most wise. Maybe it's their challenge really to be a little bit more in the present rather than more in that more submerged essence of themselves, an unfathomable, unknowable, hard to predict kind of quantity.
Well, this could very well be a business matter. I'm not going to rule that out. That trade and business and commerce are going to be an important factor. But because of the reading we had with China, I cannot rule out, some grandstanding going on here and some gut reactions that are used as an excuse to have boundary disputes or whatever. So there could be that as I'm trying to make a more prediction for this area for the year ahead. All
right, so that was Asia.
And
moving towards the Middle East,
can I get this up again?
We are first coming to Israel.
We're going to look at Israel specifically since, number one, they had their land was attacked, and number two, they attacked big time back and gotten a lot of hot water because of the way they are conducting this conflict. And I'm not going to choose sides here. I just want to see what the cards are going to say. And then we will tackle the Middle East in general after Israel. And yes, I could have included Gaza. And again, we had to pick and choose some of the things we were going to do here. We think, of course, that will no doubt come up in this reading. And it's very important. And in the Middle East reading as well. Will this conflict broaden, for example? Will we see a sign of that here?
Card 1.
Oh, there's the High Priest reversed. So this is the theme or focus for the year ahead for Israel. I think whether they're willing to do it or not, they really need to approach things differently. They really need to think about what they are doing, how they are approaching this conflict, and what it is doing to them. And not only that, don't you see something else with this card as well? Isn't this the card of the rebel or rebellion? I mean, this may not be necessarily Gaza and the Middle East fighting back. That is a possibility. But I see here internal struggles, internal strifes. There's a lot of that going on in the population. Even before this war began, there was all kinds of issues with the current government in power, the politics in power, right?
Well, Israel is one of those countries that has a high sense of connection, collaboration with their religious, cultural sense of history and their place in the world. And so this card really says that, like many other countries are experiencing, the love affair with religion or religious dogma or hierarchy may be waning, and this may be very true in Israel, especially because of the recent events, but just in general, as Banshee has mentioned.
Well, I have to agree with Mr. O. This could have a lot to do with people moving away from religion. Like, some of our politics in our country is causing that to happen, I think, as well. Because religion and politics should really be separate things, but apparently they haven't been, and I think people are rebelling from that.
So card 2, the opportunities or positive moves in the year ahead for Israel.
It's justice. Justice is reversed.
So this is supposed to be a positive move.
It is. So I think here Israel will have to work on, the positive move is that maybe Israel will work on their image. The World Court is, just as we speak, has come down with some indictments. They aren't totally dismissing South Africa's human rights case against them. A war crimes case, I should say. And, they've been told to make some modifications and changes in the way they are conducting things. So it's possible here they will try to seek either to one of two things. Either they're going to claim that people aren't treating them fairly, and try to state the case for that, or they're going to try to make some right moves. They're going to try to right the balance here.
I think that the positive moves are dealing with the current images that we now are starting to feel, worldwide opinion, not so much with maybe the highest ranking members of the Western, world, are really turning negatively towards Israel. And it's not something that they really want to do. So I think they will be trying to work on creating a better image of themselves. And that may be forcing them to deal with how their justice system works for people. They have jurisdiction over the Palestinian people. They need to be fair about how that's done.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. And finally, the challenge negative moves in the year ahead. And, what do we got there?
It's the Ten of Swords. Well, the challenge in the year ahead could be that there's really some major issues coming to Israel. And I would say that mostly this is probably the backlash of the world against it. But in some instances, this could be saying there are some perceived dangers here, that maybe there are people who feel they have to make more physical strikes against Israel or its citizens in some manner. And that, of course, is not good.
I see some specific things here. Like, for example, I wonder, because there's so much difficulty in Congress right now in even coming up with a decision to fund our government, and in particular if it includes aid to Ukraine and Israel. And even though they claim they want border changes on our own immigration policies before they will consider aid to these two countries, they're even holding up the changes on immigration policies. So you really wonder how serious our government is about funding Israel. As it stands now, certain factions in our government. So Israel might feel a sense of betrayal by allies, and also a sense of betrayal by people who might turn against them due to this world court decision. And also, I can't rule out that there won't be more terrorist attacks against Israel or blatant warfare starting because of, this.
I didn't really say it in the way that I possibly might have, but this is about the possibility of what Israel's negative or challenges are, their negative moves are. And this could be saying that maybe they feel they have no choice but to really take a harder stance with everyone and consider everyone somebody potentially that they need to vanquish or work on containment of some sort.
When I look at the opportunities and challenges cards, I'm looking at them rather broadly. I just want to mention that to you too, that, this doesn't necessarily have to be something that Israel moves to do. This could be moves against Israel as well that are just bad.
Good.
So in other words, it's a challenge that they face. So it could come from within, or it could come from without. I just want to make that clear.
Okay, I appreciate that. I wanted it to be flexible too. So now we will move to the broader Middle East in general. So since we're not working with specific countries, we're trying to just catch the overall tones and challenges and opportunities as such. And I'm shuffling again, aren't I? Oh, well.
I've done it. It's okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, so this is the Middle East. It'll cover a lot of ground here, I think. We'll see what we can do. Not everything in the world is about war and conflict, but some of these areas we are touching upon, these issues are really front and center lately. And, I'm going with where my intuition's leading me on this. All right. So let's see what we have for the overall theme focus for the Middle East.
And it's the reversed Eight of Wands.
Wow. That's very telling in a way.
Oh, yes.
I think the focus and the theme is about a lack of, connecting with others. It seems like networking or really trying to get people to talk to each other might be difficult, which indicates to me For example, some of the countries, this is just an example, that may be working on trying to establish peace or peaceful solutions for the Palestine-Israel conflict that are outside of it, they may be hitting a brick wall. They may not be able to get people to agree on, moves forward. And also, this just indicates, too, there's a lot of scattered energy going on in the Middle East this year. I feel that maybe everybody is focusing their intentions and attention on different things and in different manners. And it's not cohesive.
Well, when I see the Eight of Wands in this setting, thinking about this, I also thinking of energy that's spent, sort of a sense of tiredness and feeling like I don't want to keep doing this. I just sort of feel like I'm never going to hit my target, and of course, when we think about some of the issues of the Middle East, whether countries support Palestine or other countries' attempts to have, a better country, yes, sometimes it just feels like it's so daunting. It goes on and on and on.
Could this be about energy in general? Oil? Could this be possibly disruptions in the oil markets or some fluctuations going on there, possibly due to the war and the shipping issues in the Middle East as well, which, is being disrupted right now?
Boy, that's such a good point. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay. So card 2 is, what are those opportunities or positive moves or changes in the year ahead for Israel? And it's the Middle East. It's the Three of Pentacles. And I think this is saying really that maybe countries that find they can find common cause are going to try to work together, for their own good. And of course, that may sound daunting to other parts of the world who don't necessarily want the Middle East to kind of kumbaya, but it needs to happen, I think. There are too many disparate views. They need to figure out their plans together.
What's interesting here, because we talk about the lack of cohesiveness here and the ability to communicate with one another. And here we're talking about teamwork. So in some area, whether it's commerce, whether it's the war efforts, whether it's the wars that are raging, whether it's other agreements among these nations, people are going to find their alliances. They are going to work together. But I also can't help but think here, there is maybe one country or one leader that is going to spearhead this. Because remember, the Three of Pentacles is about teamwork, but often it's about somebody who stands up and leads the team.
Right. Even if it's only in a mentoring kind of position, somebody who is a spokesperson, somebody who's able to kind of pull a consensus together of some sort.
All right. And card 3 is the challenges or negative moves.
And boy, so fitting, the Two of Cups, the challenges are, of course, that maybe some people in any of the goals that the Middle East may be trying to do, whether it's about creating partnerships or whether it's about the various countries' own needs to correct the economy or whatever, there's going to be trusting partners or unsympathetic people who maybe are finding it challenging to work or accept each other's points of views, trust each other, feel honesty.
Look at this, Mr. O. I mean, when you think about it here, this lack of cohesion and then this break apart here and the Three of Pentacles in the middle, it's kind of as if we really need somebody who's able to pull things back together or to determine a separation agreement. Right? This almost sounds like a two-state solution is necessary, but it's not happening. Well, Gaza
isn't the whole Middle East.
I know, but it involves the whole Middle East.
It's true, because much of the Middle East is involved.
And I do feel here that, even though somebody's trying to pull everybody together, it is possible here, this is the bad moves, that somebody is going, or some places are going to keep trying to undermine this effort, and keep people separated, keep people fighting with one another, keep people apart.
I like the idea of what you said about the Three of Pentacles, because it does feel like there's a sense of somebody needs to charismatically or whatever step forward and try to pull people together. Will that happen? That's the Middle East.
Wow, you know, it's a real interesting read here because it is the general Middle East, and it has just been such a flashpoint. And I think in 2024 we can expect no less.